Parshas Bechukotai, page Memvav, first column is base. Now the Rabbi was discussing the difference between Asis Aksiva, Asis Achakika. One is ink and parchment, it's two separate entities, even though it becomes one, but it's still two separate entities. Chakika, on the other hand, means it's all one. So he says, okay, in Gashmis it makes sense, but how does this work in Ruchnius? Because even Machshava and Dibur, Chakika means engraved. So he says, even though the Nefesh Malei Aisius, but nevertheless, it's, how do you have, it's all Ksiva, it's not Chakika. How do you have the level of Chakika upstairs? So he says like this, Amnan Lahavin Amal Shomesis Chakika Mao Benefesh. Ein Azad Dimyan Cloud. There is no similarity at all by Isis and Niglas Lanami Nefesh. The Chayra, like we said, Machshava compared to Dibur is Chakika compared to Ksiva. But the reality is, Machshava is also only a Levush. Now the Rebbe said, what's the difference between writing and engraved? Writing is a garment. Because, like you put on the clothing. Chakika is the thing itself, internal. But even the letters of Machshava is still reality, it's only a garment, it's not the thing itself. Yeah, chok, cheskuf. Yeah. That's what the Alter Rebbe says in Bechukotai telechu. Bechukotai doesn't only mean statutes, it means there has to be chakika. Rak ma'at yesh dimyan, but we can understand a little bit ma sheyedeya. Sheyesh beis bechinas machshava. There's two levels of machshava. One is called machshava tata, the lower level of thought. What are you thinking? What you're about to say? And you start thinking in letters. Aleph beis gimel dalet. Leitziyim came prepared to speak it, Kenyan, like it says in the pasuk. Hashmei la'oznocha, listen to your ears, not the pasuk. The Gemara says, Ma'ashatameit beficha, but you take out what you speak with your mouth. In other words, like this, we all know that. Let's say you have to speak somewhere, okay? That's more tangible. So then, in your mind, you're thinking, what words am I going to say? Or b'chlal, when a person needs to speak. So then in the thought, you're already thinking it's more, it's not speech level, it's letters, it's thought letters, but it's still more tangible letters than if you just think. Sometimes you have to think what to say, so then the letters are more tangible, even though it's thought. In thought itself is more tangible. Does he have to speak somewhere, yeah? Yes? Okay, I know. Let's leave it at that. That's called the external level of machshava, and l'mayla, that's the level of malchus the tfuna, which is leah. Chitzeni is sabina, the external level of bina, which is eishis machshava. And the second level is based on nikar machshava ilah, higher level of machshava. Sometimes you could think, but you're not thinking in tangible ideas. It's very simple. When you have to say words, then you're tangibly thinking the letters I'm going to say. Yeah, but like this, sometimes you just think a concept. You meditate. You're not necessarily thinking in letters. Even though you don't feel the tangibility of the letters, there's still a form of letters. You're still thinking in your language. Is cloud, because it's impossible to have Gilui HaSeichel, the revelation of Seichel, even in the brain of the person, without letters. So you have, even in thought, there's two levels of thought. There's letters of thought that come down in a tangible way in thought, and there's certain level that's not tangible yet. You're just thinking, but it's not formed into letters yet.
The whole thing happens in 10 seconds.
Correct. is klula mamish. Ve'enam kehirer is the machshava tata. It's not the same way like thinking the lower level of letters that you're planning to speak. Is coming outside of the seichel. That's called chitzeni, is the bina. But he says, the higher level of letters, that you're not actually thinking in tangible letters, that's the level of pnimius bina. It's not something separated from the seichel. It's one with the seichel, but it's still, there's still letters there. Okay?
What's an example?
I told you, sometimes you think, you're not thinking in tangible letters.
Daydreaming.
Yeah, but even more than daydreaming. Sometimes you could be thinking a seichel. You're not. When you have to say the letters, then it's much more in your thought. It's much more tangible letters. You're forming the letters in your thought of what you're going to say. Okay? Anytime you have to speak, or really it's like that every time you open your mouth. But it's not so tangible, it's not so clear as when you have to make a speech somewhere. So then you're forming, what am I going to say in your thought? But that's already tangible letters. Then you have a higher form of machshava, the way I think, but it's not yet in letters. There's definitely letters there. You can't reveal anything to yourself without letters, but it's not a tangible form of letters.
His writing comes here.
Writing is even more tangible. Here he's speaking about in thought itself. There are definitely letters. But you're going to have tangible letters and not so tangible letters. Which, by the way, this is the level of Yud K, Vav K. Yeah, relatively speaking, Hey is Bina. That's the higher level, is Pnimius Bina. And Hey, the second Hey is Shechina, which is Chitzenius Bina. She said, that is called Leah and Rachel. Because he said before, Leah is called, he said this before, 1 second. Here. Leah is called Chitzenius Sabina, and Rachel is called Pnimius Sabina. Nikra Sabina Sefer. Therefore, Bina is called Sefer, Al Shem Sipuri Oasis, because of the telling of the letter Shemesavim b'menim machshava v'dibur, that comes from machshava and dibur, that comes from the level of bina, right? What is machshava and dibur revealing in seichel? It's revealing the level of bina, of understanding. Now you're revealing it. V'nei beis b'chinas elu. These two letters, types of thought, and letters, klul l'maseichel mamish. It reveals in the brain of the person, similar to Eisis HaChakika, similar to the letters of engraved letters, which are Gufei Shalav and Teid. It's not the Yeshu Nifim Mitzadatmi Aklaf. In other words, like this. He says, where do you have Lamaila, the level of Eisis HaChakika? So first he said, generally speaking, Machshava, compared to Dibur, Machshav is more connected to the essence, like you can never stop thinking. So that is relative to Dibur, that's Chakika. Okay, and Dibur is more tangible letters, that's like ink on parchment. But then the Alter Rebbe said the reality is even that still, even Machshava is a level of Ksiva, not Chakika. But he says there's a level, relatively speaking, there's a level in Machshava that there's no tangible letters yet. That means those letters are still part of the seichel. They didn't come out yet into a tangible, practical level of letters like you do when you're planning what to say. So again, it's all relative. Relatively speaking, the letters that you think in, not to speak, the letters which are not formalized, it's not formalized yet in the seichel, in the machshava, that level is called Chakika.
So when you reveal it, it takes it away from the Chakika.
Once you reveal it, it comes down into Eisis HaKsiva. But where do the Eisis HaChakika and Ksiva come from? If you're revealing Seichel, it's coming from the Seichel. Your Seichel is teaching you how to say the letters. You're revealing the Seichel, correct? Now, you can have, Chassidus brings on this example, you can have different Rishonim explaining the Gemara. They're all basically saying the same thing in different words. Or you could say the same thing in 20 different languages. Now, each language is a different type of letter. Not the same letter. Because all the letters are doing is revealing that seichel. So you could reveal it in many different ways. Even Lashon Kodesh, you could say the same thing in different ways. People explain things differently. The Likkutei is the same. Because it's coming from a level of seichel, right? Because what is the speech revealing? It's revealing an essential concept, right? That essential concept is above words, above letters. That then becomes revealed through various different letters. And even in that, you have thought, speech, and action. You could think it, say it, and write it. Now each one, obviously writing is more tangible letters than speech, and speech is more tangible than machshava. But he says even in machshava you have tangible and non-tangible. Again, you could think what you're going to say, the words that you're going to say. So even in machshava already, the letters are more tangible. And then you can have, you're not thinking what to say, you're thinking it's no tangible letters yet. And he says, which is davar zarva nifmus aseichel. Masha'enkin kan, okay, in the higher level of machshava. It's not a separate entity. When you're thinking something, you don't think. We all know this. I mean, it's hard to explain, but we all know that the way it works by ourselves. By ourselves, you think something, you're not thinking tangible letters. When you want to bring it down lower, then you start thinking about it in tangible letters. But over there, the letters, again, relatively speaking, is actually part of the seichel. So that's what engraved letters are, part of the thing. What?
Would it be right to consider machshava sovev, kolamim, and then...
Again, everything is relative. Machshava compared to dibur is sovev. Machshava compared to midas or seichel is not sovev. On the contrary, it's revealing the seichel. So again, you know, is this table big or small? If there's an ant on the table is big. Okay? Compared to the room, the table is small. So if somebody comes along and says the table is big, and then the guy says, no, the table is small, it doesn't mean they're arguing. It's a comparison to it relative to what? Okay? So when you have infinite and finite, yeah? Sometimes you can have a finite level that relative to a lower level is infinite. Right? Atzilus, compared to Bria Yitzir Asiya, is infinite. There's godliness, it's infinite, yeah? But it's still 10 levels. So compared to higher than Atzilus, who doesn't even have those 10 levels, it's finite. And it's not a contradiction. That's why there's an expression in Alter Rebbe brings it down to, I think it's a Zayir, it says, Lest amon lekushav lepirk. In Seder Satera, there's no questions or answers. Meaning there's no contradictions. Because here you're speaking about one thing, and here you're speaking about a different thing, in comparison to what? So it's not a contradiction. Here it says it's big, here it says it's small, so normally it would be a contradiction. But when you talk about relative to something else, so it's not a contradiction. In revealed Torah, this guy says you could, and this guy says you can't. Mutter and also, it's a contradiction. Right? If the mayor one time says about a certain din asur, so the Gemara says, but the mayor in a different place says mutter. That's a contradiction. And even then the Gemara is going to say no. In this case it's like this, in this case it's like this. So again, it's not a contradiction. But in Kabbalistic things, in spiritual levels, not in tangible levels, there's no contradiction. Atzilus is finite compared to higher than Atzilus, and compared to lower than Atzilus, it's infinite. So again, is Machshava Mamala, Sefer compared to Dibur? Yes. Is Machshava Sefer compared to higher Machshava? No, it's not.
The boy, if somebody has Chas Shalom, bad thought, in his mind.
Bad Chakika? Yeah.
Why do you change that? It's a Chakika.
You cover it with mud, with afar, with bittul, and then you re-carve.
By studying Torah, and saying
It's something in Judaism called tshuva.
That takes the Chakika out.
Mm-hmm. Because, according to Chassidus, evil can never be chakiked, which is incorrect, in your essence. Because the essence is only good. So you can have chakika in your thought, speech, and action of evil, and you can have, I'll give you another example. No, I can't see that time. No, it's okay. There's somebody who could be learning 18 hours a day. Okay? You want to know if the guy's really in learning or not? It's not when he's learning the 18 hours a day. When he closes the book and walks out in the street, what falls into his head? The guy been learning 18 hours a day.
Or how he conducts himself.
Not how he conducts himself, I'm saying, but he can close it. Okay, I'm leaving the Beis Medrash, I'm leaving yeshiva, I'm leaving the shul, whatever. Okay, he's walking in the street. What falls into the head? That's where they really are. That's the chikika in them. That's where they're really at. That's why when the Baal Shem Tov said, "B'makom sheretzayna shel adam shamhu nimsa," where you want to be, that's where you are. It's better to be outside the classroom looking in than inside the classroom looking out. If you're outside the classroom looking in, that's where you want to be, inside the classroom. You're in the classroom looking out, that's where you want to be. So relatively speaking, again, everything is relative. In a certain way, that level is nachkak in me. That's the chakika in me. Now, that chakika, even if it's evil, can only, it says in Batzil all over the place, it can only affect seichel midas and machshava dibur ma'asim, the levushim. The essence of the neshama, it doesn't affect. So therefore, when you reveal the essence of the neshama, to change words, tshuva, that touches the core, so then that's unchakiked. You unchakik it.
Yes.
Because it's never a chakika that's really chakiked. Pardon my incorrect English. Or Hebrew, whatever.
But when they're very pathetic, and instead of you walking on the street, you say Tehillim, or you say a word of Torah or something.
No.
That helps you. That helps you.
It purifies the air. It helps you also.
It helps the Hakika.
Yeah.
It's a lifetime practice.
Yeah. Many lifetimes. And many times the neshama comes down. But that's when you want to know where the person really is when they're, like they say, the true test of a real religious Jew, if he'd be on an island alone, and there's no satellites, no nothing, that somebody maybe will catch him, and over there he's a religious Jew, that's a religious Jew. Otherwise it could be a social pressure, it could be a show, it could be whatever. It's no true test that the person is a religious Jew. A religious Jew basically means it's engraved within you, the Yiddishkeit. That doesn't change where you are, who you are, when you are. Writing can fade, it can do this, it could. Engraved letters, sometimes you can cover it with dust, dirt. Something could be so covered with mud you don't see the engraved letters. But the letters are still there. It's not like a letter that's rubbed off in writing, the letter's not there anymore. Sometimes you can tell the form of the letter. There was once a letter there, you know. You could write something with a pencil, erase it. So to the naked eye, you don't see it. Right? Take a microscope, you'll still see it. Then you'll erase it more. Take a stronger microscope, you'll still see it. But sometimes you'll get to a point, to the naked eye, it's not there. You have to rewrite the letter. Okay, because the letter's not there anymore. By chakika, no matter how much mud there is that you don't see the letter, the whole tombstone could be covered with an avalanche of mud. You don't see it, but that doesn't mean the letter's not there. You don't have to create. And that's what the Rabbi used to scream many times. We don't have to come to another Jew and create their Yiddishkeit. The Yiddishkeit is engraved. The only thing we need to do is uncover the mud. Remember the story of the previous Rabbi in Chicago sent the shliach to Chicago went to visit a wealthy person. He went with the rabbi in the city. It wasn't the Lubavitcher, by the way. And he went to visit this person. And he spoke to him, and he said, okay, I'm going back to the Rabbi. Mission accomplished. He's a woman, I'll give you a check. So believe it or not, the Chavatik said, the Rebbe didn't tell me to take money from you. I'm not taking money from you. He told me to talk to you about something. I'm talking to you. So the rich guy was shocked. You know, every guy with a beard and, comes for money. So the rabbi of the city said, let me answer the question. He said, there's a sefer. Sefer, fixes tefillin, writes tefillin, mezuzah, whatever. So for a big city, they're able to afford a full-time sefer. Big cities have there's a lot of business. But what did the shtetl do? The small shtetls, what did they do? So they used to have a traveling sefer. And he would know this month he would be in this city, this month in this city. They would know when to come. So the rabbi said to this rich man that the word Yisrael stands for Yesh Shishim Riba Yosis La Torah. Every Jew has a letter in the Torah. Every Jew has a letter in the Torah. But sometimes a letter fades away from Yiddishkeit. They fade away. So what these people do, they're traveling seferim. They go from place to place fixing the letters of the Jew. The rich man liked the answer very much. Chassid went back to the Rabbi, gave him a report. The Rebbe said the Rabbi was right, but he made one big mistake. He says, yes, the Chassidim are traveling seferim, correct. But the letter of Yiddishkeit in the Jew is not written that it could fade away. The letters of the Jew is an engraved letter. It can never be erased. Sometimes it can be covered with dirt. The job of the Sofrim is to blow away the dirt. What I'm saying now, sometimes you can blow it away. Sometimes you need a little brush. Sometimes it's so full of mud, you need a bulldozer. But it's still there. When the Baal Shem Tov said, Atem tili eretz chayfetz, it should be for me, the pasuk says, Va'atem tili eretz chayfetz, it's a recent ayem yem. Va'atem tili eretz chayfetz, there's a pasuk that says, you will be a desirable land for me. So Baal Shem Tov said, what does that mean? All the precious materials are buried deep in the ground. If you look at the mud, all you see is dirt. You don't see diamonds and whatever. But they're there. All you have to do, I said, recently, all you have to do is dig, and then you find the diamond. You have to dig in the Jew, because sometimes it gets covered with mud. But it's Eisius Chakika. In Bechukotai Telechu, it's all the Jew by the Jewish Chakika.
Wow, like